Wherever you are in the world, surely you're concerned about what's happening in Australia. Are new draconian measures being introduced? Is there a massive protest movement on the rise, thankfully non-violent? Is that protest movement in danger of being co-opted? Or do people say that it's being co-opted in order to delegitimise the very legitimate concerns of the protesters? These questions and more will be answered in the video you're about to watch right now with your eye holes or ear holes. Hello, 4.5 million of us cannot be wrong, can we? Can we? Of course we can. We're all fallible. But what's going on in Australia? Down under, as we call it, although that is relative, because if you're there, it's us that are, ain't it? Thousands of demonstrators descended onto Melbourne's central business district Saturday protesting against the Victorian government's new pandemic powers and vaccine mandates. The crowd chanted, "Kill the bill," and "Sack Dan Andrews," as it marched from the Victorian State Library to Parliament House in Spring Street. Many held signs that likened the Victorian government to oppressive regimes. Now, on our podcast, Under the Skin, we spoke with Luke Kemp, who's a researcher at Cambridge University, who said that many of the emergency measures being introduced worldwide are negatively affecting liberty, and that he had concerns that many of these measures would not be revoked and that there was a degree of opportunism around the pandemic while not offering an opinion on the medical aspect. And that's what I would like to reiterate here while making this video. The medical component, the treatment of medical emergencies, these are all areas way beyond not just my remit, but actually my interest. What I'm concerned about is the behaviour of powerful institutions, potential collaboration between powerful institutions and private interests, and more important than anything on this sweet little sphere we live upon, individual and collective human liberty. The new pandemic laws, which replace the state of emergency powers that expire on 15th of December, will allow the Premier and health ministers to declare a pandemic and make public health orders. In a democracy, decisions ought be participatory, oughtn't they? If you have bills being passed where ordinary people can't participate in the organisation of their own lives, that for me makes more pronounced something that's been going on for a long time. We are losing freedom. We are losing rights. You can decide for yourself whether it's a price worth paying or a necessary price. But for me, this is something that takes considerable contemplation, assembly, debate, and most of all, consensus. And if you don't agree with that, that's cool. But what you're saying you don't agree with is a little old thing called democracy, which I thought our governments were meant to be fond of. It's the word they use most when cudgelling us into idiocy. The protest came a week after about 3,000 people attended a protest last Saturday calling for the resignation of the Victorian Premier. Because I'm English, when I hear Victorian, I just think, is this all happening 150 years ago? So far, 86% of eligible Victorians, "Don't you dare talk to me like that! Now get up that bloody chimney!" have now received both doses of the COVID vaccine, with 92% receiving the first dose. Critics of Victoria's proposed new pandemic powers legislation say it's the most extreme of its kind and will give the Premier and health ministers too much control. Let's have a look at how it was handled on the proper news.
Good evening. Thousands of people have brought the city to a standstill. The protesters again fighting proposed laws that would give Daniel Andrews the power to declare a pandemic.
Firstly, I like it when the news person's just stood up like that in front of a curvy screen. It's nice. We should get what have we got? A woodshed? They got a curvy screen. Where's our curvy screen?
You couldn't see a square inch of the road, tram tracks or footpaths beneath a sea of frustrated Victorians stretching for blocks down Bourke Street.
Okay, so already the first thing I'm thinking is a lot of people are at that protest, so a lot of people are pissed off.
Returning for the largest rally yet against the Premier's proposed pandemic laws.
What concerns me? Well, personal freedom, personal movement, medical apartheid.
It's indicated that ordinary people are idiots. You know, there's a kind of condescension continually in certain types of media. Oh, the great unwashed, proletariat, punters. You know, these kind of terms, these dismissive terms used for people. You listen to these people, articulate. You know, I'm concerned about freedom, collective freedom, medical apartheid. Yeah, these all seem like legitimate concerns. All these people being here is an indication that they care. So you either accept that they care and do something about it. That's not an option. So you have to delegitimise it. The process of delegitimising their protest has to begin. Oh yeah, the thing is they don't understand, or they're stupid, or they're led by nefarious people, right? Let's see what happens.
They came from all directions, starting at the State Library, swarming through the city, carrying the Madonna
Okay.
and a familiar-looking punching bag.
The thing with the punching bag is it does undermine the idea that it's non-violent. Well, we're having a non-violent protest, so we've got this punching bag.
It's just a memento for today. It's not about punching it. We're about a peaceful protest.
We're not about punching it, it's about a peaceful protest. Shouldn't have put it on like a punch bag, could have put it on a flower.
And really understanding why we're here, to kill the bill.
Neither is it about killing.
There's an election coming and they'll have to answer to all these people.
A fact not lost on Craig Kelly or Bernie Finn.
We have all had a gutful.
I really love Australian politicians because if you're like used to English politicians, I would say that Her Majesty it's all like that. These geezers, I'm sick of it. I'm pissed off. They sort of talk like other normal Australians. Oh, you're out of order, mate. Like angry people shouting in a car park.
No politician should ever have this power.
It's up to us to become proactive in the political process and make our voices heard.
Seems pretty nice, isn't it? It's all different age group, different variety of people. Wherever you are on the political spectrum, people coming out and protesting is very important. It's necessary. This is not mob mentality. Of course, it should be taken as read and understood that when I talk about protest, I mean non-violent protest. I mean non-cooperation. I mean people coming together to build a better, fairer world.
Many of the people that you see here are just normal, everyday people worried about their jobs, they're worried about their kids, they're worried about their rights being infringed, and they want to take a stand for it, and good on them.
Yeah, that's what it is, isn't it, that people feel like their lives are being encroached upon. This kind of protest becomes inevitable when the democratic process breaks down. It is a response to people feeling not heard. People don't want to go marching around in the streets like that. Well, some people do, but most people just want to be left alone to live their lives.
Enough is enough. Business is already hard enough as it is without having these political rocks thrown in their road.
The legislation introduced by the Andrews government would allow the Premier to make an indefinite declaration of a pandemic and state of emergency. That's worrying. Indefinite, no boundaries. Give the Health Minister power to make broad public health orders and grant authorised officers the power to detain people under quarantine. Limitless power, no clear boundaries, and the ability to detain. That is terrifying.
I'm not an anti-vaxxer, I'm not a pro-vaxxer. I'm a pro-choicer. So it's all about choice. Our body, our decision.
The central theme of the protest has been freedom from government control over movement, vaccine mandates, and now from laws which have been framed by some legal and political critics as allowing unchecked government interference into people's lives. The legislation has been criticised by the Law Institute of Victoria, the Victorian Bar Association, the Human Rights Law Centre, who say it's lacking oversight mechanisms and transparency. There is a legitimate fear out there that this puts more power in the government's hands, and there's been very little effort by the government to communicate what this bill is about to the wider public. We got this bill, and what it's going to do is place more power in our hands, and we won't have any time when we have to stop it. Would anybody like an orange? What did you say? Would you like an orange? Yeah, but before that, I think I offered you a banana. While the Victorian government, forsooth, has said the orders will be similar to the public health directions used during the COVID-19 pandemic around quarantining and restrictions, the order powers are very broad. Under the legislation, the minister may make any order that the minister believes is reasonably necessary to protect public health. I believe that's reasonably necessary to protect public health. We're going to have to back it up. I don't have to. I think it's reasonably necessary. That's too vague a language for a law. The powers will also allow the minister to issue pandemic orders to specific classifications of people, such as by where they live, an event they attended, their age, vaccination status, job or living arrangements. When has this ever been acceptable? These kind of taxonomies around where you live or an event you attended. That's terrifying. Hold on a minute. It says here you've been to a Miley Cyrus concert. Well, yeah, no, I like her. Get the old quarantine, son! If a person refuses to comply with an order, they can face fines of up to 91 grand or 2 years in jail. For businesses, the fine is either 454,000 or up to 2 or 3 times the commercial benefit gained from the non-compliance. The Law Institute of Victoria raised concerns that the declaration can be in place indefinitely. The Institute said there was no time frame for a maximum period of detention. Bloody hell. Clarity on where people would be detained. You're going to be there forever. Where? I'm not telling you. And there's no independent external merits review on the detention review process. Can I get a review? No. He said the privacy protections do not go far enough and the allowance for the sharing of personal information for permitted purposes should be reconsidered. Well, having looked into this, I can see why the people of Australia are concerned. But Australia, let me tell you from England, your mother country, that we are right with you. You're confronting something that sounds very unusual and fearful. And this is not just Australia's problem. This could become the world's problem. And perhaps if you're interested, is nuance about, oh, maybe some people at that protest were right wing or left wing. Well, listen, if particular parties in government were open to the interests of ordinary people, protests wouldn't be necessary anyway. This is not just Australia's problem, this is America's problem, this is the world's problem because it's a human, global problem. And if you care about humanity and if you care about the world, you've got to care about Australia. But that's just what I think. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Hit us up, give us a thumbs up or a not your option. Let me know what you think or feel. If you enjoyed this video, beloved Australians and fellow citizens of Earth, hit up this one. It's probably a little bit better even. And if you want to do some meditation now, please subscribe to my Awakening channel where I talk about well-being, meditation, all that stuff. Sign up to my mailing list as well, just one click away. And if you're in the UK, come and see me on tour next year. I'm all over the country. By the country, I mean England. Most of all, though, stay free.